Song Talk Radio.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio, the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. Dialing in from our Toronto headquarters, I'm Neel Modally, and with me, my co-host, Phil Emery. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing very well. It is a Saturday morning here in St. John's, Newfoundland. We normally record in the evenings, but this time we're doing a special show, so we're actually doing it on the weekend. So we've been working on the weekend. So
working for the weekend. Obviously, we have nothing better to do with our Saturdays when it's nice and sunny outside.
Yes, it depends on who you talk to. Exactly. They may have a different opinion.
Yeah, well, never mind. I'm not going to tell you what Emma had to say about me doing the podcast this morning. But anyway, all right. So for everyone else, send your comments and questions and your thwarted weekend plans to Song Talk Radio on Facebook or Instagram, or feedback at songtalk.ca for the email, and we'll share your thoughts on the show. Please visit songtalk.ca to see the show post for this episode, to find links to resources we mentioned, and to download lyric and chord sheets. Follow along with the songs that we feature. Today, it's a special episode of Song Talk, just in the family. And today we're talking all about cadences, and what they are and how to work them, and maybe a couple of examples of how they do their things. Yeah.
So when we talk about cadences, we're going to be using a number system.
Yes.
So you'll hear people saying, "Oh, it's going to 5 to 1, or 2 to 5, or what have you." Now, what that is sometimes called the Nashville system. And what that does, it helps you understand sort of the relationship of the chords to the key, as opposed to being, necessarily stuck to what chord you're playing. Very often guitar players, and this is probably more true for guitar players than piano players, because piano players tend to, by the very nature of the instrument, know a little bit more about theory. Mm-hmm. But when you start playing guitars, you start knowing how to play a G or a D, and you think about songs in terms of going from the G to the D to the A minor, whatever it is. The Nashville system uses a way of representing the chords by the chord tones. So we're going to be doing a lot of stuff in a key of C. And so in the C major scale, we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when I talk about the one chord, I would be talking about the root of whatever chord you're in. So if I'm in C, the one chord would be C. If I'm in A, the one chord would be A. But so in the key of C, the 5 chord would be a G. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the 5 chord would be a G. If I'm playing in A, 5 chord in a key of A would be E. So 1, that's A. 5 would be the E chord. So that's the Nashville, and that's when people are saying going to the 1 to the 5. They're talking about those chords, basically the positions of the chords in the key. One of the advantages of using this method is it helps you conceive the chords in terms of how they relate to each other, as opposed to it being a G or an A or a B minor, whatever it is. It helps you understand how the chords relate to each other and to the key itself. So, and it also helps if you have to back someone else and they say, "Oh, can you raise it half a step?" So instead of thinking, "Okay, I'm normally going to G," that means it's a G sharp, and the next one would be, maybe like D sharp, and you understand how the chords relate to each other. So it's very easy to move keys around as well. Mm-hmm. So at first it's a little weird, but you will get the hang of it. What do you think about that, Neel?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very helpful when you're collaborating with others, and you say, this is it's a riff in the key of B, and we're doing a 5-4-1, right?
Yeah.
And then you know exactly what that means. I think if for guitars it's a little bit perhaps easier because you can just you guys tend to move chord shapes around and it's kind of the same shape. You just got to move it up or down the neck, whatever. Yeah. With piano it's a little bit different because the shapes may change depending on what key you're in. The black keys are different, right? Yeah. So it's a little bit different. Fortunately, with most modern keyboard instruments, there's a transpose button, so you can flip to any key you want and still play the original.
That is true.
All the keys if you want, right? I've heard anyway that if you're a performing musician, that's not recommended because then you forget to turn your transpose off for the next song and things get really messed up, right? So
that has definitely happened.
But in general, like today, you're right. When we're talking about cadences, it's important to think in terms of the scale degrees and the chords in terms of 5-1 or 4-1 or whatever, because those relationships is really at the heart of what we're talking about with cadences and with chord sequences in general. It's not that you're playing a G and a C; it's that you're playing the 5 and the 1, and the relationship between a 5 and a 1, no matter which key you're in, is always the same kind of relationship. And it's that it's that dominant pull that we're talking about with cadences. So it is important to think in those terms for sure.
Absolutely. When you're notating chords like this, you will have it's usually done with Roman numerals. So I'm not sure if kids are actually learning Roman numerals anymore, but this is one of the few times it's actually useful. But again, you only need to know go up to real 7, the number 7, and you're okay. In this process, the major chords are notated as uppercase. So an uppercase I and an uppercase V. But if you're referring to a minor key, that would be in lowercase. So if you're doing if you're talking about a 2-chord, the 2-chord is usually designated by 2 lowercase I, and that's how you can tell whether or not it's major or minor. Now, in a major key, the 1 chord. So again, we'll do this in C. So the 1 chord in C is C major. The 4 chord is F major, and the 5 chord is G major. So 1, 4, and 5 in major chords is generally major. The chords of 2, 3, 6, they're minor, and the 7th is diminished, but most people just kind of go through and play a minor and kind of cheat their way through.
Yeah. It's not cheating per se, but yeah.
Yeah. So in the key of C, we have the 1 chord, C, C major. The 2 chord is a D minor. The 3 chord would be a E minor. 4 is major, so F major. And the 5 is G major. And the 6 would be A minor. So again, you can, when you're writing, actually, it's easy to remember those chord shapes that you always know the 3 chord is a minor, because it's very handy if you're doing like a. And if you want to go to a quick bridge, you can go to the 3, which is minor, and they fit together really nicely. So it makes writing songs a little bit easier because you're working from sort of a predefined set of major and minor, and you can change those, of course, as you want. But it's a good place to start.
Yeah. So the thing we talked about when we did our modes challenge 2 years ago, where you can modally interchange any of those majors to minors and any of those minors to majors. And that's kind of a fun exercise. And a few of the cadences we're going to be talking about today, that's kind of what they're doing. They're borrowing from minor to major, major to minor, to create a different flavor of a cadence. Okay. So
one thing I want to mention though is inversions. Like most chords will have the root on the bass. So, of course, the root in the key of C would be C. And the next one above that would be the third, which, of course, is E. And the fifth above that would be G. That's a very stable sound. But you can also have your third on the bass. And that kind of gives it's a little bit less solid. And you can even have the fifth on the bass, which is even sort of less solid. No, that's still a C chord, but that's an inversion. So depending on how strong you want your ending chord to be, you can choose to have your bass be the root or the third or the fifth. And of course, it could be the sixth or the seventh or something else, depending on the sound you're going for. But generally, the first, third, and the fifth is where you want to have that. So root position is when the bass of the chord is in C. Second inversion is where your bass is the third. And the fifth would be when the third inversion is when the fifth is in the bass. It's still a C, but it's that sort of an inversion. So if you hear people talk about the word inversions, that's what they mean.
Right. So the root position is not an inversion, then, is it? Or is that considered the first inversion? But
I guess that'd be called the first inversion. Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, because it's not. I don't know. Is it an inversion if it's the most stable? Anyway.
Yeah. I don't think so. This has been really interesting because I remember the first time I heard about cadences was in high school, and I could have sworn that cadences had 3 chords.
Okay.
Now, they don't seem to. We're all going to be talking about 2-chord cadences.
There is one example. Yeah, there is one example I found with 3 chords, but generally I've always considered it to be 2 chords. I mean, it's a song. It's an organic thing, right? So there's always a chord behind that as well, like the chord you go to before. So you could very easily think of it as 3 chord, the 3 chords. But the whole idea with the cadence is that it's very much a place of finality, right? To end it, to perform or to write a cadence is to say this is very much a stopping point, a point of resolution. It's often the very end of a song, but it also could be in the middle of songs, at the end of a chorus, at the end of a verse, whatever the case may be. And it's really. I mean, we're always talking about this on the podcast too, about tension and resolution. So this is really, the cadences are really a point of resolution. And probably the strongest kind of resolution. Yeah, 2 chord, 3 chord. Yeah, who knows? it's a little bit variable.
It's true. Very, memory is not quite as solid as we like to think sometimes. And it's quite possible that, I'm misremembering, but I could have sworn, because I was sort of surprised going, oh, that's what a Plagal cadence is. But anyway.
Right.
So it'll be mostly 2-chord cadences that we're going to be talking about.
Right.
Right. So let's start off with, I guess some people call it an authentic cadence or a perfect cadence. What do you know about that, Neel?
So the perfect cadence is generally the 5 chord to the 1 chord. So if we're in the key of C, we've got the G chord, and we're going to come back to the C chord. So if you've got a chord sequence that's, starting with C and going to a 5 chord, the 5 chord is tension. It's being held there. It really wants to come back to that point of resolution, which is the 1 chord. And the one thing that's really interesting to me about this, if you break down the DNA of these individual chords, you've got a 5 chord and you've got a 1 chord. Within the individual notes of those chords, you have in the G chord, the third note or the middle note is a B, and that has very much a pull to the C. It's a semitone apart. Right?
Yeah.
And similarly, you've also got Well, that's the only one you have in the G to C chord, right? But it is the leading note of the scale, right?
Yeah.
So it really wants to.
Yeah,
it's the seventh degree of the scale. It really wants to pull back to the one, and that's and that's going to be important when we look at these cadences and chord relationships. Is look at those semitone relationships. Where are the semitones happening? And that gives you a little clue, and you can hear it as well. The ones, the cadences that really feel like they're pulling strong, and the ones that are a little bit softer in their landing. So that's the perfect or authentic cadence. It goes by both names.
So G to C. So again, if it's your G, we're in the key of C. So you have that. World will live as one, and that's the ending of Imagine.
Imagine, yeah.
You know, it's often happens in a lot of classical music. It's considered to be the strongest cadence. Generally, when you do this, your melody would actually also land on the root of the chord. Doesn't have to, but generally it does. And some people call an imperfect authentic cadence where one or both of the chords are in a different inversion. So you can play around with that. And sometimes you just need to sit down with your guitar. And playing guitar and a piano is very different. With a guitar, because things aren't laid out in quite sort of the more such a visual approach, you need to sort of sit down and just kind of play these chords and really pay attention to the notes and how they move around to sort of get a deeper understanding of it.
Right. Yeah. That term perfect authentic cadence is really when that leading tone is at the top of your chord stack, right?
Yes.
And as well the 5 chord usually is a 7 chord.
Yes.
And again, like that top note, so G7 to C, but the top note of that cadence should be the B and the C, right? This again, that's semitone relationship. That's what's really key to the thing. So that's considered the perfect of the perfect, so to speak.
Yes.
Right?
Now you might not do that in a lot of sort of rock and pop. It does have sort of a kind of it has a sound. Sounds a little bit I don't know if cheesy is quite the right word, but it certainly sounds.
Well, it harkens back to classical music, the 5-to-1 sort of thing. It is more prevalent, I find, in like classic rock or classic songs from the 60s, 70s. You're sort of, the Beatles did it a lot, CCR kind of thing, like the really classic stuff. Modern music generally has more of a loop-based approach, so it's not sort of coming to a resolution. I find a lot of modern music actually holds a lot of tension throughout the whole song. It never comes to that degree of strong resolution. I feel like if you do that these days, it's considered a little bit old-fashioned. It's considered a little bit kind of nursery rhymey, because like all children's songs, very much 5-1, 5-1, 5-1 all over the place.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Right. So it's a thing. It's a thing to consider that maybe it's then not to say that it's good or bad. It's just the tendencies these days. I think a part of it has to do with the technology of it too, because everything's so loop based now that unless you've got the 5-to-1 embedded in your loop somehow, then it's gonna hold a bit of tension, and the resolution doesn't come till the beginning of your next loop. But by then you're already introducing more tension, so it's kind of tension, propelling throughout your loop. So it's a thing one way or the other. But of course,
there's certainly whole songs that actually are just 1 to 5 all the way through.
Yeah,
that's not uncommon. So it is like the strongest chord relationships you can have.
Yeah.
But it's also a great way of maybe standing out. If no one else is doing this kind of thing, you can pull these elements into your own songwriting style and actually stand out. because other people won't be doing it. And that's especially if you're looking at making this profession, or want your career to go maybe forward as opposed to just doing it as out of pure love. You do want to think about standing out, and sometimes using these older approaches can help you stand out a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Everything old is new again, right? Everything. But there are other flavors of there's also the minor perfect, right? Which is the same, which is essentially the same thing, but instead of going to the one, your one chord is the minor chord. So now you're in C minor, as opposed to C major, but your 5 chord is still a major chord. It's still the G major chord, right? And so you're still getting that B to C relationship. So it's a fairly stable relationship, but this time you're in the minor key, right? Which naturally, interestingly enough, if you look at the natural scale, the minor scale, the 5 chord is actually a G minor. So you'd end up having this. So what you're doing actually is turning it into a minor harmonic scale, right? So that you get access to that leading note again, that semitone relationship, right?
Now the difference between those two minors, because one has that sort of Indian sort of flair to it, which I always kind of like.
Yeah, it's the same as the natural minor, but the 7th is sharp.
Yes.
Yeah, the 7 is a semitone higher, so it becomes it's a semitone higher. That's all there is to it. Yeah. Right, but what that does is it gives you your 5 chord then becomes a major chord.
Ah, right.
Which is a great way. I used to think that this was the cleverest thing that I invented myself, but this has been going on for ages. I was like, oh wow, if I'm in a minor key, blah blah blah, but if I actually play a major chord on the 5, ooh, that's super tasty, right?
Yeah.
And for a long time, and even to this day, any song I write in a major key, the last chord of the chord progression is usually a 5 major.
Yeah.
Go back to the 1 minor. I've done that so many times, it's not even funny anymore. Clever.
Well, because it works. It works really well. It
really
sounds so natural, and you can set up also in your verses. You can, let's say you have a verse that is like 8 bars long. At the end of 4 bars, you do a little cadence. Well, you can keep on doing that, but then you can also, like, instead of going to the 5-1, you go to a 5 in a different chord. That's a different kind of cadence. We'll talk about it in a bit. But that's a way of, sort of setting up like expectations and then giving a bit of a prize, which is nice.
Right.
Yeah.
So earlier, Phil, you alluded to the 1-4-5 progression, right? The sort of right. So the 4 chord is the other sort of really important, really strong resolution chord. So the other cadence, which is called the Plagal Cadence, is, again, if you're in C major, you go to the 4 chord, which is the F major, and then you come back to the C. So it's
often called the Amen chorus, because a lot of gospel will go, Amen.
Yes, very much
Amen. That's
used in that. Yeah, it's very much used in gospel sort of thing, which as well as related to sort of blues and that sort of thing. I found this. I didn't know it was called Plagal at the time, but when we did our modes challenge 2 years ago, because I was working in Mixolydian, I was in F Mixolydian for that challenge, and I had a 4-to-1 relationship, and if you're in Mixolydian, you've also got a 7-to-1 relationship, all major chords, which have, again, looking at the semitone relationships, they both have the same kind of softer resolution than the perfect cadence, right? So that to me, the realization that was that, if you're working a Mixolydian, you have these like smoother, softer moves you can make than the typical nursery rhymey kind of 5-to-1 thing, right?
Yeah.
So there are ways to do that to incorporate this Plagal or Amen cadence into your songs if you don't want that really, really strong pull to the resolution.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely a softer, and it works very well also in verses when you're not wanting to necessarily stop, but you want to keep on kind of going. I think like Let It Be is uses it quite a bit. That's used a lot in gospel and soul and funk and pop and stuff. If you go instead of going from the C major or going from the F major to the C, if you go to an F minor, make the 4 a minor, and not through the whole song, but just at the end. That's kind of a nice, sweet little variation as well.
Yeah, that's a little bit more. It's a little melancholy, a little more bittersweet kind of flavor, and and people have been sued over a 4-1, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
the minor 4-1, sorry.
And so I mean, you can even if you're have an F all the way through, like an F major all the way through your song, there's nothing wrong with if you just want to, as a bit of flavor, to go to a minor, your F minor to the C, just to kind of give it a bit more sweetness.
Yeah.
So that works really well. And again, just you can make 4-1 in any key. So for those guitarists out there, try doing this in different keys just to get your brain out of thinking of everything as G or C or D or what have you, and it'll just expand your world so much. So that's really good.
The other great way to think about the difference is that a perfect cadence is like a period, where the Plagal cadence is like a comma.
Yes.
There's a bit of a pause there, but we haven't fully arrived home yet.
No. Yeah, so it's not quite as final. And I mean, again, you can actually do it on the end, and lots of bands will do that for their big crash ending. They'll do the 5, then down to the 1 because it does sound so strong. Again, you might not want to do that, but you can. So.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Shall we talk about interrupted or deceptive cadences?
Yes. So these are cadences that you shouldn't loan money to. Because
you won't get it back.
Because they're untrustworthy. They're deceptive.
Yes.
And so deceptive is like when it feels like you want to go to a 1, but you don't.
Right. So
what you can do is even just stay on the 5. And that's really fun because you could be doing your... You can actually just sit on the 5 and make it a 7 or add a 6 to it, and that kind of gives it. I mean, the Beatles do that a lot. It gives it sort of a bit more energy. The ending of Friday I'm in Love, they don't go down to the 1; they stick on the 5, and it kind of gives it this nice sort of open feel to it. That's one use for this.
Yeah. That the Friday I'm in Love is example of the end of the song. They just hang on the G. Yeah. And hang on the 5 chord, right? The example I saw was Queen's I Want to Break Free, where it's like you're on the 5 and you go to the 6. And you go back to the 5. You go to the 4. And you go back to the 5, and then finally you come to the 1, right? So you're
do
like
that again, Neel. Do that again, just because, and pay attention to those chords, because you'll hear it wanting to pull down to 1, but it doesn't. It's really fun.
Yeah. So you're in C, but you're going to go to the 5, and you want to pull back to the 1, but instead you're going to go to the 6, and you're going to go back to the 5, and you go to the 4, back to the 5. And then finally come back to your 1. So it's a way of prolonging that tension, about interrupting. We're not going there yet. We're not going there yet. We're not going yet. Now we finally arrived.
And what's fun is most of that, because it went to the 6, right? Did it go to the 5 to the 6? Yeah.
Yeah, 5, 6,
which would
5,
be the minor.
1, or 5, 6, 5, 4, 5, 1.
Right. And always remember that your 2 and your 3 and your 6 are generally minor. They don't have to be, but that's a good place to start. If you want things to sort of sound kind of harmonious, and if it doesn't have the feel that you're looking for, then try majoring them, just to sort of play around with them. But
certainly that this is what they call the imperfect or the half cadence, is where you just hang on the 5 and you never resolve to the 1, which typically is the most sort of strongest feeling and potency at the very end of a song, where you really want to expect, because you've been pulling back to 1 at the beginning of your chord progression all the way through, right? But then the very end, where you got your listener tuned into that, right? But then and that's it. And then the next song on Spotify rolls along, right? So
a great example of unexpected endings is the Beatles' "I Want to Hold Your Hand." I want to hold your hand. I want to hold your da 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 da. And it just kind of it kind of makes it, and it adds a little bit of interest. A great thing to do, and I'm going to say this mostly for guitarists, because again, piano players, it's a bit different, but even a piano player could be worthwhile, is take one of your songs that you really love and write down the chords and figure out what key it's in. Most pop stuff will start on the 1 chord, I'd say, generally.
Yeah.
Sometimes not, but generally that's a good way of starting. And then figuring out, what is the 1 chord, what is the 5 chord, what is the 3 chord. And it's a great way of sort of seeing how someone else has built something, so that you can actually use those methods in your own songwriting and go, oh, wow, that's really cool. I've never thought about doing that kind of chord change, and it has a particular sound. And that can really influence your own writing and kind of give you a bit more depth of understanding about how the chords work together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
No, there's lots of different cadences. I mean, there's a half cadence and a Phrygian cadence and so on. I don't know if we want to get into that, but
which one's the Phrygian cadence? I didn't encounter that one.
That's the 4, 6 to 5 in minor keys. A 4 with a 6. Now, when we say a 6, it's like you're adding a 6 to the chord. So if we have C,
so a 6 chord.
So a C with a 6 would be versus
So you're adding a 6 to the 4 chord, you said?
Yes. To the 5. Yeah. So it kind of gives it a bit more feel to it. It's also, depending on your...
Yeah, that's a nice feel. Yeah, and again, the 5, you know what this one does? It gives you... No, actually it doesn't, sorry. I was thinking to give you two of those semi-total relationships, but it doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
Another little short tip, which I was confused until much later than I probably should have been. But back then, we didn't have the internet. Life was tough. When you hear people say, oh, that's a major 7th chord, I never quite understood. It's actually really simple. Mm-hmm. When you build up a chord, you start on the 1, and then you have your chord, your major scale. So what you do, you start off on your 1, you skip a note, you add a 3rd. You skip a note, you add a 5th. The extensions are just skipping a note and adding another note. Mm-hmm. So like a 7th chord is usually it's usually a flat 7, but a major 7th is just the actual 7th note of the scale, which would be like a half note below the root, and you get, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
And a 9th is just skipping a note, adding another one, and skipping a note and adding another one. Sit on a piano and do it in the key of C, and you'll just go, really? Is that all it is? Like, I don't know why someone couldn't have told me that before, but I knew how to play a major seventh chord and a minor seventh chord. Like, I knew what they were because guitarists work in shapes, but I didn't really understand them. And I sort of thought, oh, well, there was a bit of theory I didn't understand. It's actually really simple, and I don't know why people didn't mention it. Anyways, hopefully that'll help you.
It is pretty simple, but it's the 7 chord, the G7 chord to the 1 chord arguably has more of a pull than just a standard 5 chord to 1, because again you this is where you do get those two of those semitone relationships. From here you get, and you also get right, so it really has a very, very strong pull. I would argue that that's the more perfect of the perfect. Actually, the when they talk about the perfect, authentic cadence, like the perfect of the perfect, it is always a 7 chord, right? To give you that extra pull. Yeah. But the other one I encountered, actually, when you were talking about 3 chord cadences, is referred to as the Super Mario Cadence, right? So this is interesting because it's a flat 7, or I'm sorry, flat 6, flat 7, 1. Yeah. So it's a really weird, like, I don't know what key you're. I mean, you're in C, but you're really borrowing. You're flattening your 6 and you're flattening your 7.
And a lot of rock songs will be done that because rock guitarists will just have a major key, a major shape, and they just move it around. They don't really think about major and minor. So you kind of get these unusual chord movements, which work really well, kind of give it a different sort of sound.
I was even thinking in our band Bay Shelter, we wrote a song, sort of half wrote a song with our lead singer Addie, and we decided on our sort of interlude / chorus part. I think this is more of a Lydian thing, maybe because it was E major, F major, G major. So it's kind of a similar thing, but a little more tense. Right, those are kind of bum 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 kind of a thing, like 3 major chords in a row.
Play that chord progression except with the E minor. And now play it with the major. Yeah. So the correct one would be with the E minor. Yeah. But having the major kind of gives it a different sort of tone.
It gives it a totally different. It's a much brighter approach, right? Yeah, and it sort of thwarts your expectation, because if you're in E major, then you're going to a major 2, so that's that's a Lydian thing, right? And then the G, G major is not natural in E major either, so it's
And at first, this is going to seem kind of confusing, but after you sit down with your guitar and think about 1, 4, 5, and just kind of going through those chords and like playing, your C major, playing your C major, your D minor, your E minor, F, G major. You kind of go through those again and go back and forth between them, and you'll sort of see how they kind of sit nicely in a harmonious key. And it makes it a really easy way of moving around and helping you with your melodies sometimes, because you want your melodies to be, ideally have notes in those chords. But it kind of gives you a nice sort of shorthand to make something that sounds harmonious and pleasant. And then as you sort of understand that a bit more, you can play around with majors and minor and breaking some rules. But it's a good place to start. And, at first it seems kind of confusing, but after a while you won't think about it. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
The other one I encountered, and you'll hear this name. I've heard this name before, but I didn't know what it was. Andalusian. It's a great name. and Andalusian. Sounds like a mountain range or something.
Well, I think, aren't those the aliens, the blue skin aliens with the things on their heads?
With the Theta bands and everything?
Yeah, I think so. I thought it was a Star Trek alien.
I thought it was a Scientology thing, but
anyway, probably is.
Yeah, but so the Andalusian, again, this is basically I'm basically borrowing off of David Bennett's YouTube channel. He did a whole video on all these cadences. But the Andalusian cadence, if you're in a minor key, so it's the 1, so the lowercase I, right? Then you go to a flat 7, then you go to a flat 4, or flat 6, sorry, and then a major 5. Right, and this is a very piano thing because the bass is doing right. You're locking down the bass. Right, which is a great, it's again, it's that, this is sort of natural, but then it's the same as that that minor Plagal thing where you put in that minor 5, the major 5 chord into the before you return to the 1. So again, this is perhaps more of that modern loop approach, right? There's my chord progression. I'm going to loop back, and then we're back to resolution at the beginning of the next chord pattern, as opposed to hanging here. Yeah, here's where we really want to go back there. So, it's a different kind of feel. But I'm positive I've composed an instrumental or done something songwriting wise with that sort of right. Everyone has, yeah, the walk down thing. So it's a fun.
Which is another reason why, if you do play guitar, it's worthwhile learning how to play some chords on the piano, just because it allows you to sort of see your music and hear your music in a slightly different way. And it opens up some more possibilities. You don't have to become, you don't have to be able to play Bach, but if you can just figure out what I did is I actually just took guitar chords, bar chords, and put them on the piano.
Yeah.
And it works pretty well because you have like your root and your fifth and your an octave root on your left hand. And then you can put your, the third and the fifth and so on your right hand. So it works out. It makes it very easy to move around and understand. But it's worthwhile, spending some time just kind of getting familiar with it. Again, you don't have to be a great player. You don't have to do Bach or runs or anything like that. You're just kind of looking at your songs in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
Kind of handy.
And just thinking about those relationships, and I mean, I'm a piano player, so I agree that it's easier to visualize on the piano. Guitar still mystifies me. How some strings are a fourth apart, and some are a third apart, and some are a fifth apart. And I was like, who designed this thing? But it works.
You can fake your way through. You can fake your way through guitar quite easily if you have a capo. Even if you just play in open position, you can use a capo and move things around. Whereas a piano, you can't do things quite as easy, but each one has its positive things. There is a lot more options, a lot more detail about cadences you can get by, and there's David Bennett's video is fantastic for this. He kind of goes really deep. I find when you're starting off with something, start off with the perfect and the Plagal, which is of course 4-1. So start off with your 5-1, 4-1, and maybe play around with your Deceptive ones, and kind of limit yourself to that. The moment you kind of get your head around it, and then as time goes by, you can explore it, understand how the numbered chords relate to each other, and I think you will be well on your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there is a lot to explore here. A lot of it, to me, is just looking at the chords in your chord palette. You can refer to the circle of fifths for this too, to find out your pi segments of the circle of fifths that are all connected, and those are your chord palettes. But again, you can very easily flip any of those from major to minor or from minor to major. So you're playing your whole palette, but one of those chords you're going to flip to the inverse major or minor, and just see how it sounds, because it can be kind of a cool twist on things.
Yeah, and what can be fun is if you highlight that change. So going from a major, to a minor to a major, there is usually the third of the chord which changes. And if you highlight that in your melody, that can be quite interesting as well.
Yes.
So as opposed to sort of, in that way, it doesn't sound like a mistake, but it sounds more intentional.
Yeah.
And
or it sounds less ambiguous. It just clarifies that difference.
Yeah. That's what you want to do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
As they say, if you make a mistake, just do it again and then call it jazz.
Again. Yeah, exactly. And then you'll be fine. Yeah. All right. Yeah. This was really good, Phil. I mean, great stuff on the research and everything.
Amazing. Yeah, I think it's good. And again, listen to this show a couple of times if you're not familiar with it, and don't get freaked out because it's not that hard. Once you get into your brain, you'll go, "Oh yeah, I understand."
Yeah, and of course, check out the show post because we'll link to the resources that we referenced and that we used to sort of talk about this stuff. So there's a lot of learning out there. Literally, you go on YouTube and do like cadences, search cadences. There's a whole whack of stuff there. Yeah, if you want to learn all about them. But I mean, a lot of them do get fairly deep into the theory. Yeah. But again, I think your suggestion, Phil, is great. Start with the perfect, start with the plagal, see how that feels, flip a few majors to minors, see how that feels, and go with that. Yeah. And don't resolve sometimes, because that's fun too. Yeah.
Nothing ever comes good at resolving anything.
and life is never resolved, so why not? Why resolve your song?
That's true. And if you have any insights on cadences and how you like to use them, or any kind of insights you've come across, send us an email, feedback@songtalk.ca.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us what your favorite cadence is. Tell us if you've used the Super Mario Cadence in your song somewhere, because that would be oodles of fun. Yeah. Okay, I think here in the band, that's all the time we have on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to all the cadences out there. You guys are great. Okay, we want to hear from you too, so please send us your comments on Facebook or Instagram to @Songtalk Radio. Send us an email at feedback@songtalk.ca. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes, and subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider. And please support us at our Patreon page. You can visit songtalk.ca/support. Thanks to everyone who has supported us so far.
Thank you.
And you can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on Song Talk Radio on the resources page on the website. And please join us at our next monthly Song Talk meetup. Whether you're in Toronto for our in-person meetups or anywhere in the world for our online meetups, it's free to join on Eventbrite and free to attend the meetup. Bring a song and a lyric sheet and get constructive feedback from other songwriters. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. You can follow me at neelmodi.com. You can follow Phil
Delemery.ca.
Awesome. And be sure to stop by the website, songtalk.ca, to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. Thanks for tuning in, and keep on
writing. Rock and roll, everyone.
Keep on cadencing. A word?
It's a good show.
Okay, great. Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, that wasn't short at all.
Yeah, and I think it'll actually be helpful, because I think new songwriters aren't used to thinking about chords that way, and I think it certainly helped me quite a bit once I got my brain around it.
Yeah. I know I've done these things in the past. I just didn't know what to call them necessarily.
Yeah, that's it.
And the only one I knew was perfect. That's the only one I really knew before this week. Was like Plagal.
Yeah,
sounds like a mystery novel or something.
I could have sworn it was like 4-6-1. It's so bizarre. I would have put money on it that there was 3-chord cadences, but maybe there wasn't. And today, someone said 3 chords in this economy. Maybe just cut back.
Yeah, we can't afford that. Jeez. Yeah, and I think but I think you're right. I mean, the chord before matters. Why wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course it does actually.
Yeah, and it's all part of the song. No one's gonna listen to your song and be like, "Oh, I love that cadence." Well, someone might love that cadence.
We would.
I don't know. Yeah, we would.
We would.
I suppose.
Normal people don't.
Yeah. It's one of those things now. I'm gonna start noticing it in songs that I listen to.
Yeah.
If I can pull them out, at least the imperfect half cadence, the unresolution ones. Those are ones that are easy to find. It's like, oh yeah, we wanted to go there, we didn't go. Fine, we know. And then I think the Super Mario will be easy to pick up on as well.
Probably.
Cool.
All right.
All right, great stuff, man.
Yeah, I will put this together tomorrow and get it off to you, and we can get it out.
Awesome. Okay. All right, we're heading up to Muskoka on Monday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Or no, not to Muskoka, Kawartha Lakes. We're in there somewhere. We got
that's going to be beautiful.
Cabin, and then the in-laws and stuff are going to join us later on in the week. So,
nice.
Yeah, I can still get the web post posted.
Yeah, get all that stuff together. There. Awesome.
Yeah. Cool, man. All right, sounds good. All right, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Have a great weekend, and thank Hema for allowing us to do this.
Yeah, she wanted to go to a farmer's market this morning, but it's going to happen every.
What are you going to do with a farmer? What are you going to do with a farmer? You have to feed him, clean up after him.
She found this person on Instagram, I think, that has this special, like, you know what a dosa is?
Yeah.
It's those rice pancakes sort of things, and they fill them. Yeah. It's a South Indian thing, and
yeah, they're delicious.
They're delicious, and they're really hard to make.
Are they really?
My mom's got to the point where she's absolutely perfected the process, because you have to have the right amount of heat on the pan, the right amount of oil. The secret apparently is to take half an onion, slice it, and smother that on the hot pan, and then put your dosa batter on it, and that makes it all flavorful.
And really interesting.
Cool. But anyway, she found this one vendor at the farmer's market that has this like special pink dosa batter.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that means, but she wanted to go get that. So, but
maybe there's like an oil in it or something that sort of pulls through or something.
I don't know. If it's pink, the only thing I think of is pink Himalayan salt. Maybe it's in the mix.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe it's quite good, but it's one of those things that you get sort of obsessed with, trying to make it home and trying to get it perfect, because like the first few are always rejects. They're always crumbled up into a mess, or they're burnt, or they're
right.
Whatever. It's hard to just get it right, where it's like nice and crispy on the edges and on the outside and soft inside and all that sort of stuff. But anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully, I'm sure it's still. They're usually open till 3 or something. So
yeah, we might head out soon. But next week on South Indian Cooking at Home show.
That's good. I mean, it's Indian food is one of those. It's so varied, depending on region.
Oh yeah.
It's just the problem is I don't know what the regions are, but there is this. I would talk about the Nataraj in Toronto, and it was. My friends would go there and just order food and order food and order food. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, that's all North Indian stuff.
Oh, it's North Indian? Okay.
Yeah, all the stuff with all the stuff that's cream based. Yeah, tandoori's and all that wonderful stuff. That's all North Indian. The South Indian stuff is anything that's got rice or coconut in it, in the batter. And then from where we're from in Gujarat, that's more vegetables and lentils and things. I mean, obviously there's overlap all over the place, but it's that those are the general tendencies. And there's very few Gujarati restaurants. There are more now. There's some in Brampton, there's some in Etobicoke, and some in Scarborough. Like they're starting to come out. But for years, the only thing you could get was North Indian, and that was Indian food. Right. Yeah. And then there were a few dosa places and things where you get the South Indian stuff. And then now there's more of the middle of the country stuff, the Gujarati stuff coming out. But there's all different varieties.
I always wondered when you went to Indian restaurants if it was sort of the equivalent of Chinese food, or people from China go to like a Chinese food restaurant and go, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
We don't have any of this stuff, but we're going, it's so good. It's Chinese food. And
chicken balls and rice. That ain't Chinese food.
No.
It's Chinese American. It's like Italian American, right? Like I remember when I studied in Rome, one of my classmates brought her fiance with her. And the first thing they did was they went to, a nice Italian restaurant or whatever, with a patio outside. It was summertime and everything, right? And he was like, I don't even want to look at the menu. All I want is fettuccine Alfredo. I want a fettuccine Alfredo. Italians had no idea what he was talking about. What the heck is fettuccine Alfredo? That's an American Italian thing.
Yeah.
Right. And even all these Indian places, like they've got like Bombay sandwiches, right? Which is like a grilled cheese with like some spices and stuff like that. It's a fusion between like a British toast and Indian spices. So they're always mixing. Even Hakka. Hakka is the blend between Chinese and Indian.
Oh, is it?
So a lot of chili. Everything is bloody fried to death. But you get all the stuff, like the cool stuff like momos and that Manchurian sauce and everything. Oh, it's really, really good. Like it's really different. But and there's a ton of Hakka places around the city now. But that's a new thing. That's like maybe 10 years old before it became really, really popular. But yeah. Because China and India share a long border. Of course, there's going to be.
I guess that's true, isn't it?
Overlap, right?
It would make sense, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyway, all right. Have a good one, man.
Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Later.